Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another devlog for Spriters, A Hope's Blooming Dawn. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today's episode is going to be a bit different. Instead of focusing on the largely creative side, we're going to be focusing on largely the technical side of game development here. So, in my game, I have a crafting system available, and this is provided through a plugin of Yanfly's called Item Synthesis. Now, in item synthesis, each of the items in the game can be made up using different components, and these components can be found throughout the world or however you want to do it in your game. But you need to create recipes in order to do them. So if we have a look over here, you'll see I have a whole range of different items that can be found throughout the game as you're wandering in your travels. And these are just some of them. Now, over here we have what are called remnants. Now, these are remnants of pantomimes that were defeated either by the player, which you can acquire after a battle, or just naturally in the wild through competition with each other. Unfortunately, I'm not at the stage in my programming where I can show these sort of events taking place, but you get to witness the aftermath at least. So you get to get these little remnants, you find them throughout the world. These then can be added together with components, like over here we have some boulders or some soft husks or things like that, or hard husks rather, that will allow the player to combine these components and these remnants to make different things in the game. So if we come up now to items, you'll see that I've used a similar system for cooking in the game. And if we want to make a hamburger and chips, you need to have these various items in your inventory in order to synthesize together that hamburger and chips. In order to get the recipe to learn how to do this, you have to get the recipe book, which will unlock the various recipe that you need in order to create the item. Once you have that and the items you need, you can then craft the item together. Now, I am working on weaponry. Now, because in the game your weapon is literally a character, like for Annie, his weapon is literally mechs, what I have done is I've created weapon spheres. Now, these little round orbs are what contain your various things that buff your character. For example, you have shards, gems, and crystals. These are your augment slots. And for each of these, you can see have a set amount, but they also gain in attack strength, starting at 1 attack for your starter sphere and going up to 90 attack for the hallowed sphere. Now, this is subject to change as things go along and development continues, but this is the values that I have got now. And for each of these spheres as well, there is an elemental variant. Now, these elemental variants add attack elements onto your character that uses them. So for instance, an earth sphere is equivalent to a basic sphere in attack power. However, it also adds the earth element onto your attack, which is very useful. It also adds an additional gem slot to the basic, although you'll see that anything above basic also has 3 gem slots. Gems are things that allow you to gain the ability of your defeated enemies, or you can purchase gems in the shops, which will also allow you to use new abilities. Shards, if we come over here quickly, we come into the shards. These are things that will enable special effects, such as stunning, scalding, poisoning, smoke, cloud, dizzying, confusion, sleep, paralysis, all that sort of thing, burn. And these shards, depending on their level, will increase a percentage chance of these being inflicted upon your enemy whenever you attack. So these are very, very powerful, especially in the LX variants, where it is a 60% chance of it hitting off of each attack, which is very, very good. Also, we have things called crystals. Now, these boost your total stats, base stats, by a small amount. So for the S, all the way up once again to the LX, which base it by up to 60% greater, which is very, very good. If you can imagine getting a crystal with 60% extra HP, that is a lot of extra HP, especially on your later levels, when your HP can go up to, at level 99, if we just all the way up here, there we go, up to 9,000 plus 60% extra, you can quickly see how these crystals can be very, very useful. Within the weapons, however, you also have a bit of variance, because you have things called shard spheres and crystal spheres. These allow you to add additional crystals or additional shards at the cost of your extra gems. So you will not be able to use as many skills, but you will be able to get more buffs, which can be very, very extremely useful, depending on the situation you find yourself in. Now, these original spheres do not have any crafting recipes. You can only buy them in the shops. However, these special elemental, crystal, and shard spheres do have crafting recipes, and a large amount of the time this is the only way you can have them in the game, is through crafting them. You can, of course, sometimes, depending on the area you find yourself in, find different spheres in chests as rewards, but you will not be able to get the complete complement unless you craft them yourself. Now, in real life, if I do this a bit, you can hear I've got a book with me. And this book, I have been writing in all the recipes for all these different things. So the recipes that you see in-game now are not the actual recipes, but I've been going through and working out exactly what these things will need. For example, for a fire basic sphere, or a basic called fire sphere, you will need fire remnant and ash. And that will allow you to make a fire sphere if you have those two components. So if you're wondering in the game, how will you acquire this? You'll find it lying on the ground like this. Like, this is the fire remnant, and then the ash is one of these components down here. So once you have collected those two components, I think this is either cotton fluff or ash. Yeah, that's cotton fluff. This is ash over here. So yes, so once you get the ash and the fire remnant, you can then make your own fire sphere, which will add a fire element to your attack, which is very, very useful, especially against things like acorndits that have weaknesses. This game has an element system that allows you to take advantage of a certain pantomime's weaknesses and resistances. For instance, the bow leaf takes 200% from both electric and fire, and takes 0% from nature and water. So you want to try and use electrical and fire type skills against it, whereas you don't want to ever use nature and water type skills against it. The balancing of the skills is like always, you will have two things that are very effective and two things that are not effective at all. The exception to this comes with the physical type, which has no weaknesses or advantages. So these are very, very different in the way that they are handled in the game, and as such you need to approach them differently. You want to try and get status effects against the physical types. So yes, you also have armor. Now, armor in the game can also be crafted, but this is a bit different. In the game, you will be able to get standard and great variants of the armor that you find throughout the map, but you will only be able to craft robust and masterwork variants of them. So if you want to craft these, you will need special items and stuff. As you can see, I haven't quite worked out the recipes for those, but we are getting there. These will not have augment slots. The only things that will have augment slots are your spheres that you will be able to find and utilize throughout the game. So that is basically how you will advance. Also, in your armors, you have things like your charms, headbands, and things like this. Now, charms allow you to enemy to drop more items or increase your critical hit rate or things like that. Whereas tokens over here allow you to increase a stat by a great amount at the detriment of another. But you also have things like standard charms, which allow you to just flat out increase one stat. And of course, these go up all the way to the large variant as well, which increases it and decreases by quite a large amount for the token, or just merely increases it by a large amount for the one particular thing, for the charm. So yeah, that is how that works. You also have items like the focus band, which gives you immunity from confusion or immunity from sleep from the drum set, which allow you to resist various elements or resist various status effects. So that can also come in very, very useful if you're going into an area that you know has a lot of pantomimes of that type that are giving you trouble. So yeah, we come up all the way to the Masterwork Skills Silk Suit over here, which you also have two types of different armor, which I forgot to mention. One that focuses on special defense, and another that focuses on just standard defense. So you need to be able to, you will be able to choose between which one is the most appropriate for your character. Alright, so guys, I hope you've enjoyed this little look behind the scenes at the more technical aspects of the game. And yeah, as always, my name is Athais. Good night, God bless, bye for now.